Welcome to What Would Happen If. Think of this show as the confessional booth for the inquiring mind. No matter how ridiculous your questions, we'll never judge you. Just as the guy who asked, what would happen if I take a really tiny clock and strapped it to my wrist? Would it ever catch on?
On tonight's show, what would happen if you made your own DIY ice? If you watched telly in a lightning storm? And what would happen if you made soap out of dangerous chemicals?
Caustic soda, really nasty chemical.
How much water do you drink a day?
I probably drink about 4 or 5, half a small bottle a day.
6 or 7 glasses a day. 3 glasses.
Close to 2 litres. 3 to 4 glasses of water a day.
Everybody you see nowadays seems to be carrying around little bottles of water. The bottled water market is worth £1.5 billion a year. We've turned into a nation of sippers and gluggers, constantly reaching for a water bottle like a baby at a teat. But do we need to? What would happen if you stopped drinking altogether? Well, Peter here is going to do just that. We've told him that he isn't allowed to drink anything at all. No tea, coffee, beer, nothing you can put into a glass and pour down your throat. And to report back to us how it goes.
Okay, I think I'm ready to do this. I guess I normally drink around 2 litres a day, what with tea and coffee, soft drinks, that kind of thing. So it's going to be pretty different. And I think what's going to make it quite hard is actually summer at the moment, so it's going to be pretty hot. So I reckon I've got a few thirsty days ahead. Anyway, I start tomorrow, so here's my last drink. Cheers.
He is allowed to eat, though, anything he likes. How will he get on just on the water he gets out of his food? First of all, though, why do we need to drink water at all? What does it do?
We need water to keep us hydrated, which means that we've got enough water in our blood to actually help circulate the blood around the body, delivering nutrients to the tissues and actually taking waste products from our tissues back to the kidneys to get rid of.
So pretty important then if you want to stay alive. It's often said you need to drink 2 litres a day. Our guinea pig will be falling well short of that. 2 litres short, in fact. But apparently he won't be unusual in not getting enough to drink.
We did a survey across the country of how much fluid people were drinking each day. We found that something like 2/3 of people weren't drinking as much as 2 litres a day, and 40% of people weren't even reaching 1 litre a day, and that's not good for those people. They ought to be drinking more than that if they want to stay in, with top performance and mood and well-being.
We'll leave our guinea pig to struggle on and see how he gets on with his drink-free diet. And apparently it could all get a little unpleasant.
The temperature problems kick in, and your temperature varies wildly, as if you've been shoved in a microwave cooker or into an oven, and you just can't do anything about it.
Table 4. Table 6. Here's one. Breakfast.
2 bacon and eggs, 1 cauliflower cheese, and table 4 wants a bar of soap.
Soap. Right, soap. First thing we need, we're going to make soap from coconut oil. Oddly enough, for an oil is a solid. We'll put that in some warm water. It will melt. Olive oil and a vegetable fat. Now, you can make soap from any oil or fat with an alkali, and the magic ingredient, caustic soda from under the sink. That's sodium hydroxide, really nasty chemical, which is why I'm wearing the gloves and the safety specs, if you don't mind. About 16 grams of this. It'll be a fairly rough and ready recipe, this, and we dissolve that in about 100 millilitres of water. Let's give this a stir. And when you dissolve the caustic soda in water, it really generates a lot of heat. We want it at 45 degrees Celsius. I think you'll find that's a lot hotter. Blimey, it's 60 Celsius already. Let's have a look, see how this coconut oil is getting on. Look at that. Look at that. Liquid now, isn't it? Got the alkali going. Coconut oil, followed by a similar amount of olive oil. Yeah, that'll do. Then is your vegetable fat. Several splodges. Look at this. That should do nicely. Another one of them. We'll put that into hot water, let it melt, and then we'll come back and we'll add caustic soda to the mixture of fats. And that's when the magic works. That's when the chemistry starts to happen. Right, let's just check whether this is at the right temperature. Yeah, that's ready to rock and roll. The caustic soda, yeah, that's at 45 Celsius too. So what we do now, we'll add the caustic soda solution to the mixture of oils and fat. Let's get an egg whisk, because the next step, really important step, this is a key step to mix this thoroughly. Oh, okie dokie, picking a pokey, we're almost there. It's beginning to trace. That's a key step in the soap making process, right? I'll show you what I mean. If you pick some up in a spoon and just drop it on the top, you see the way it leaves a trace on the top? It doesn't sink in. And that tells me, it would tell any soap maker, their soap is on the way. Pour that in there like that. These are our bars of soap, really. Now this needs to be left for about 5 or 6 weeks in an airing cupboard. Really, the soap making process takes that long. But I have some that I made a week ago. Look at that. As one acid test for a soap. If it forms a lather. Let's get these gloves off, take the goggles off. Water, after a week, is this soap? Does it form a lather? Hey, look at that. Kushti, hey, look at that. But mind you, I wouldn't want to wash my face with this, because there still might be some caustic soda in there, so just a word of warning. Excellent, look at that. That's that. On with the risotto.
What would happen if we tried to do winter sports in the summer?
Like what?
Like sledging.
Oh, you mean strap ourselves to blocks of ice and then we can whiz down anything at all because we're dead slippy?
I'm thinking more we make a sledge that's got ice runners. So it'd work just the same, but the ground isn't icy.
With global warming, this could be the future of the Winter Olympics.
Let's go and get some ice.
Yes. It's going to be really difficult to actually do any engineering with.
It should take a screw.
Do you reckon?
I don't know.
Oh!
I'll tell that as a no. I don't think it does take a screw.
Doesn't take a screw.
Can we drill it?
Don't know. Find out.
If we can drill it, we can maybe bolt it. No. No.
Not with my drilling technique, anyway.
All right. Oh, it's slippy, but it's not strong.
In the Second World War, they had this plan of making ice aircraft carriers. And just like we found, normal ice wasn't good enough. But what they did was they mixed it with sawdust to make like the ice equivalent of concrete. Because cement's rubbish, but you add aggregate and sand and it becomes pretty damned good. Water and wood shavings is the equivalent with ice. The guy who invented it, his surname was Pike, and that's why they called it pikecrete.
Do you reckon we can make our sledge runners out of pikecrete to have a small layer of this with a big layer of pikecrete that we can fix to?
Little layer of this first.
Yeah. In goes the sawdust.
It's going to sit on top, isn't it?
It will do until I give it a mix.
What kind of consistency?
I think it wants to be quite thick.
Already?
You could imagine that setting into something that would really take your eye out.
Next winter's going to be a whole load better. That feels just about ready for the cold room.
Looks good, doesn't it?
Let's go.
Pikecrete.
The biggest test we can do on these to see how the pikecrete compares is just to drop it from a big height.
Yeah, okay.
Right, I'll get the ladder.
Which one do you want first?
Ice first, I reckon.
All right, you get up the ladder. It's shattered with a drill.
You ready?
Yeah. Let's try our pikecrete.
You ready?
I am.
Cannot believe how good it is. That settled it then. I reckon we make our runners out of pikecrete and just give them a nice skim of ice at the bottom.
Let's get them made. Good skills.
What I worry is steel has like an uncanny knack of just melting ice because of the way it like conducts heat from it.
Right.
And I think all these screws are kind of eventually going to just melt their holes. So we ought to maybe do this quite quickly. Oh, my footrest. Absolutely fantastic.
Can you not? Yeah, I can.
Good. We need to find a better surface. Push me away.
This is it. This is winter sports in summer.
It's quite steep though.
Yeah, it is. Nothing ventured and all that.
I think we just go and test our bones.
Yeah.
And the pykrete.
Ready?
Yep. Go. Shuffle it. Oh!
I've got to do that again.
That's absolutely
I've got to
ace.
do that again. That was so smooth. The ice.
That's still solid on there.
I know. It's such a good runner.
I think you've got almost a whole afternoon sledging on that. Yep, go. Yep.
Here you go.
Shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Yes, we're on. Oh. Global warming, we don't care. Stop them all.
What would happen if you locked not one, not two, but 3 leading academics in a room and gave them 10 minutes to answer a hypothetical question? This is Brains in a Box, and today's question is, what would happen if our brains were twice as large? Time starts now.
Well, our brain is 1.4 kilos, whereas a sperm whale's brain is 7.8 kilos. And you'd imagine that a dog was much more intelligent than a camel, but yet a camel's brain is 10 times bigger than a dog's.
The heavy computer isn't any better than a light computer.
Exactly, yes. If we take the proportion of the brain to the body, it puts us ahead of whales, it puts us ahead of dolphins, it puts us on a par with mice, and it puts us well behind birds.
Albert Einstein had a brain which was slightly smaller than average, and the glial cells in the brain which feed the neurons, he may have had more of those.
He may have been terribly bad at memorising train timetables.
Yes, specialised function. They've grown the frontal lobes of the mouse twice as big as normal, with this beta-catenin gene to the point where they couldn't even be born. And they turn out to be brighter mice.
There are parts of the brain that you can grow with training. The hippocampus, which is the part of the brain that's responsible for navigation and spatial awareness. The hippocampus of the London cab drivers grew after they memorise all the streets of London.
Teenagers, for instance, do grow bigger brains as well. You get a whole new piece of cortex, which then cuts back again.
We'll leave our brains in a box for the moment as they consider their top 3 conclusions. While they do that, here's what's still to come. What happens to our drink-free guinea pig?
Made me feel a bit better, but I have to say there's only so many apples a man wants to eat.
And what would happen if you took a children's party popper and went large?
Males have more neurons than females, but there's no evidence that males are smarter than females.
Back to our brains in a box, and we gave 3 leading academics 10 minutes to answer the question, what would happen if our brains were twice as large? Presenting their conclusions is Professor Noel Sharkey.
Well, the third conclusion is, and you'll be pleased to know that size doesn't always matter. It's what's in there that counts. So you might have a lot more neurons, you might have a lot more connections, but it's the overall organisation that will make a difference to your intelligence. Now, the second one is that we may allocate all the extra neurons to memory, we may allocate it to smell or vision, so we might be more like a dog or something and not necessarily more intelligent. And the third one is we'd be very good at problem solving, we'd probably be a lot better at science, but it wouldn't necessarily enhance other types of intelligence that we know about, such as emotional intelligence or physical intelligence. And without these, we wouldn't really have our humanity as it stands now, and that's not necessarily a good thing.
Breakfast, cereal, no milk allowed.
We've set a challenge for our guinea pig Peter to see how long he can go without drinking. One day in, and it all seems to be going swimmingly.
Okay, well, so far, day 2, and it's not been too bad, really. More than anything, I've missed the sensation of drinking, actually pouring a liquid down my throat. I do miss that. But I suppose the worst thing is not having coffee. But I guess it's probably the caffeine I'm missing more than anything, because I usually drink quite a lot of that.
Of course, this whole process might be a bit harder if he wasn't able to eat either.
Lovely.
Cunningly, though, he's made sure he's eating a lot of fruit.
It's got quite a lot. Have a look at the liquid. It's got quite a lot of liquid in it. That's why I like it.
So will that keep him alive? How much water do you actually need to take on every day?
Well, it's a fairly straightforward sum. You have to replace whatever you use. Now, obviously, that depends on how big you are and what you're doing and all sorts of factors. But essentially, it goes like this. About 1 litre of water comes out as sweat. So even if you think you're not doing any exercise, you're still sweating a little bit. So that's it. There you go. 1 litre of sweat. Lovely. And then you excrete about 1.5 litres. Now, a lot of this comes out in your intestines, but a lot of it also comes through your kidneys and comes out as wee. That's another 1.5 litres. And lastly, about 0.5 litre comes out in your breath. So every time you breathe out, some water vapour's coming out. So that's 3 litres of water. But about 1 litre of water you get from your food. So whatever you've eaten, you're getting about 1 litre of water back. And about 0.5 litre of water comes back to you as you metabolise that food, as you break down the food inside your body. That leaves 1.5 litres. And that's how much water you should be taking on each day.
We can get quite a lot of water from food, and indeed it's a really invaluable source of water. But the fact is that that's not terribly reliable. For instance, watermelon is 97% of water, but how many of us live on watermelon? Indeed, how much good would it do us if we did? Lettuce and vegetables and so on contain a lot of water, but basically we need to assume that we should be drinking water.
And after 3 days, our guinea pig is starting to feel the strain.
I felt pretty thirsty in the afternoon, but I managed to resist having a drink. In the end, I had a couple of apples, which made me feel a bit better, but I have to say there's only so many apples a man wants to eat.
Fruit, then, might not be enough. How will he get on when life gets a bit tougher?
Good run, Dad?
Yeah, very good. Tell you what, thirsty now.
The end of the trial, coming up.
At Liverpool University, England, there's a lab which is one of only a few in the world capable of providing a bolt of electricity up to 60,000 amps and 6,000 volts. In effect, it recreates one of nature's most fearsome phenomena. Normally used to test products designed for electrical substations, today we're asking what would happen if your television was struck by lightning. The lab's capacitor banks are capable of holding 1.3 megajoules and can discharge in a fraction of a second. Stand by for some shocking television. We're about to unleash 40,000 amps on this set. Because of the speed at which electricity travels, it's difficult to know exactly what happens inside, even with the use of a high-speed camera. The best guess is the smoke, which is a combination of accumulated dust, and the red colour is thanks to some fried electrical components. Anyone for a second-hand telly? Big and small. Go large, where we see what would happen if we take a kid's toy and go that little bit bigger. The party popper, the explosive variety. No fancy occasions really complete without the pulling of the thread, the satisfying pop and the thrilling sprinkling of multicoloured tissue. The perfect device then to go large. In a small version, a little explosive charge is tucked into the neck of the popper. It's friction sensitive. When the cord is pulled, the charge ignites, and the resultant bang forces the tissue paper out of the bottom through the weakest spot, the cardboard end. Being such a potentially dangerous item, the party poppers can only legally be purchased by those over the age of 16. Fair enough, of course. But let's face it, there's a serious danger that you could have someone's eye out by wantonly firing bits of cardboard and confetti into the air. Our version also merits a government health warning. A dustbin with a polystyrene lid, and the propellant of choice is gunpowder. If it's good enough for a gun, it's good enough for a big toy. And we've been down to the Christmas decoration shop too for the filler for our larger version. It's not confetti, it's crepe. We think it will do the job just fine. Into the bin and spread out for launch. Our firing mechanism is exactly the same as the smaller one. A pull on the cord will ignite the charge and dispel the contents. Strapped into place it must be, so it doesn't backfire its tinsely bits over our little and large. Though that would be fun too. An inflammatory splurge of streamers of crepe, like the smaller version, but somehow more satisfying. If you have a party planned, we'll happily turn up at your house with our kit and fire anything you like into your neighbour's garden. The party popper then, gone large.
We've got our own little guinea pig who's trying to see how long he can survive without drinking. 3 days in, and it's not proving easy.
Okay, well it's 3 o'clock in the morning and I've just woken up with a bit of a headache. I came downstairs and started to pour myself a glass of water and then suddenly remembered that I wasn't allowed to drink any water, so it hasn't killed me yet, this whole process, but I have to say it's started to get a little unpleasant. Good night.
And it's not just a case of feeling thirsty. Stopping drinking has more serious effects too, especially if it gets hot.
You hear a lot about people having hypothermia if they're out in the cold, but also, of course, heat exhaustion. If you get out in very hot weather, you can't regulate the way in which your body temperature goes up and down, and that can be potentially lethal. Your heart starts to beat very fast, you feel extremely unwell, you feel sick, you'll be sick, and sooner or later, basically, all your body functions will give out.
And bearing that in mind, after 3 days, 4 hours and 16 minutes, our guinea pigs had enough.
Okay, that is my lot. I think I've had enough now. I really am quite thirsty and I miss going to the pub, so I'm going to stop now and have something to drink at last.